What is up, gang? It's market update time. If you've been around here for a while, you know what this is. It's just me and you. It's no editing. It's no music. It's no nothing. We're just looking at stats and talking about what they mean. That's the most important thing. I don't get on here and say, we have 13,425 active listings. I will mention that number because it actually is important here, but I'm going to put it in context and give you an idea of what's going on in the Denver metro right now, because we are here in mid-ish July. And this is an interesting point in any real estate cycle because it's when the market kind of starts to turn in a seasonal, cyclical market like we have here in the Denver metro. And especially this year, year of our Lord, 2025, especially interesting. If you've watched the last market updates, you understand kind of what's going on. We are significantly slower than we have been in recent years. It's a different market than we've seen in the last 10 to 12 years at least, which means, something different depending on whether you're a buyer or seller or if you are both. But we're actually seeing some changes in that from the last time I did this until now. And so if you watch the last one, you know that I believe 2025, when it's all said and done, is going to be looked back at as the year where prices finally came down in the Denver metro, because the last 3 years, they've been very steady for the most part. And that's average prices across all counties, across all property types. Condos are a different story. Attached properties, especially condos, those prices have come down about 8% from the peak. That's mid-2022. So not 8% in 1 year, 8% in 3 years. But single family homes have not. They've actually crept up. And so we're going to look at what's going on. We're going to look at what's happened with active inventory, because for a while there, it was just rushing, flooding the market. That has changed a little bit, and try to get you an idea of where we are and where we're going, like I always do. Our friend Nick Gurley makes an appearance. If you've watched this channel, you know how much we love him. He's the Reventure consultant guy, the guy that walks around new build communities and just says the sky's falling. I think literally. I think those are verbatim his words. Hey, we're going to get there. We're going to get there at the end. It'll be a fun little run here. I always say this, I'll try not to drone on, and then I usually end up doing it. So you can see the length of this video, whatever it ends up being, and decide for yourself. But if it's your first time here, thanks for coming to the channel. Sam Newman. I run a Denver real estate team here. So a residential real estate team in the Denver metro. It's our goal to be your go-to real estate resource, especially in a market like this, regardless of which side you're on, but especially in this market, having a dynamite, experienced, thorough team at your disposal is more important than ever. If you're going to sell a property, we will market it better than anybody in the Denver metro. That is my promise to you, and I have zero qualms about making that promise. Neither here nor there. The point being, we'd love to chat with you if you have any needs in that area. But let's get to it. Okay, so these are Megan Aller's stats. She's a title rep here. She's the best in the business at what she does, of breaking down the stats and putting them into context. So this is the one I usually start with. A lot going on here, as I always say, but let's just focus on really what we're going to focus on today is the blue line, the average daily active count. Okay, so this blue line going up here. You see the seasonal cycles. So this is what happens. Now, COVID times, things were very flat in terms of inventory. There was no inventory on the market, a lot of new inventory coming to the market, but it all sold immediately. And so the active count stayed very, very low. Then, as I mentioned, 2022, things popped up. 23, similar. 24, it got more inventory, more favoring buyers, right? Because, of course, the more inventory there is, the more buyers have to choose from, the more leverage they have, all else being equal, of course. And now in 2025, we are seeing that go up way, way more. So if we're looking at the blue line here, this is, I would call it an inventory explosion, more than we've had in the last 10 to 14 years, depending on which metric you're looking at. But if we look down here, average daily active count, I said I would mention it, 13,425. That's a ton of listings by recent standards in the Denver metro. And the year over year number is what I like to look at. So we are up 44% year over year, almost 50% more inventory from this time last year, this time this year. So you're seeing we're only halfway through the year. It's only halfway written, but this active inventory line is still up considerably more than it has been the last few years. And that's as we're just now moving into the second half of the year when inventory typically goes way up, as you see. So we can expect more of that. But what we've seen here, this number has actually slowed down in terms of new inventory coming to the market. So for a minute there, it was touching almost 60% up year over year. That has slowed down. That has come back. So active inventory has started to stabilize just a little bit, still up a ton from last year and then the year before that and before that. But it started to stabilize a little bit rather than just rocketing up as we move into the second half of the year. And I have some theories as to why and actual evidence as to why that is happening. And we're going to get into that too. But I like to look at these two. What we're seeing is the odds of selling. Again, we've done this before, but right now our odds of selling are at 38%. This is a number that Megan puts together based on all the listings that go on the market in a given month and how many of them actually go under contract and sell. So you see it was way, way up here north of 80% at the height of the market. You're seeing the same thing, right? We're seeing these humps go up in terms of inventory, go down 23, 24, 25 in terms of odds of selling. Okay. And so we are at 38% right now. It actually popped up a little bit last week. That may very well be an anomaly. We'll have to wait to see what happens. And so looking at this, showings per listing on average, 1.1 showings per listing. This is where we're at. It has been much lower the last couple of years, but it's even lower now. So that's per week. One showing per week, about on average, again, across all property types. I like to compare that to this next graph, which says showings per contracts. We're averaging right now 14 showings per contracts. So doing the math, if we're getting, and these are averages, right? These are going to be different for everybody, but one showing a week, and it takes 14 showings on average to get to a contract. Now you see why homes are sticking on the market way, way longer. Expectations are a huge part of this. Like, obviously you're looking at this. Is it the best time to sell your home? No, of course not. Some people, many people are still selling. That's what we're seeing with all these homes on the market. There's a life event where they need to move. So you need to have a good strategy. You need to price it well. And pricing well right now is sort of anticipating the market, getting ahead of it rather than behind it or even where it's at the moment you're going on the market. But beyond that, expectations are just huge. This is not going to be a 2-week process. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a 1-week process between listing and going under contract. That's great. That can happen. Sometimes it's 4 weeks. Sometimes it's 14 weeks. Sometimes it's 30 weeks or more. It's months rather than weeks right now in terms of the timeline for how long a listing might take to sell. Okay. This is the median days on market. These have just shot up. So this is median. Average is going to be more than this. Average is about 45 right now, but that accounts for those outliers that have been there for 500 days on market and refuse to make a price adjustment. Those are pulling the averages up. But right now, median is 30%. That is up 66% year over year. Homes are just staying on the market longer. This number will continue to go up as we move deeper into the year 2025. Price reductions for pending transactions right now, 53% had at least one price reduction. Okay. Over half of properties on the market had at least one price reduction before it finally went pending. And then the amount of the price reductions, those are averaging about 6% or about $41,000 for total price reductions. So if you have a median price home or even a little bit higher, if you have a Denver home that's priced $700,000, $750,000, $800,000, and you want to do a price reduction, $10,000 is not going to get it done. 10 grand, it can get it out there. It hits everybody who has a search, everybody who has the property saved, it'll email it out to them again. Sometimes there's reasons to do that. I recently had a listing that we got repainted because that's just what the market was telling us. We needed painted neutral. These bold colors were not getting it done. And it was, we did a minor price reduction once we got it painted and got the new photos to get that property out there. Again, to get fresh eyes on it again, but if it's, the goal is, hey, now we're doing a price reduction. We haven't done any updates to the home. We just need to get it priced to sell. This is the average, $41,000, 6%. So 1-2% isn't going to do much. It's much better typically to do one big price reduction, get it in that new price bracket, than 4 or 5 little price reductions. And so, by the way, looking at this, if you're a buyer, this should be great news. And we've been talking about that for months as well. But is it a good time to buy? Affordability is still a huge challenge. Interest rates are still hovering just below 7%. Again, it depends on a number of factors. But there are opportunities. You have more to choose from than you have had in 10 years. And so that's up to the particular buyer. Again, would love to have a conversation if that's something you want to explore, but it's really going to be case specific. And for some people, it's going to be a really, really good decision that they ended up buying in 2025. A lot of people are going to say, hey, I can rent, get what I want for cheaper, not deal with the headache. I get that too. It just depends who you are. I want to go into one more thing too, because I pulled up this Realtor.com article. Okay. And so Denver housing market is hit with an explosion of listings. So this is from late May. So this is a little outdated at this point, but I actually like that because I can compare and contrast. So the data they're using, so they're talking about, we're over this now. We're at 13,000 plus listings, but they're looking at the April numbers. That 10,000 number was up 65% year over year. So like I said, that gap is getting smaller. So 65% was huge. And now we're down to 44% year over year. So what's going on there? New listings are still coming on the market, not at the same rate that they were. So why is it the year over year listings number shrinking? So a few things. Number one, sellers, I think, are seeing what's going on out there. They're seeing the state of the market and they're asking people like me, is it a good time to sell? And I tell them, all else equal, not the best time to sell. Hey, when is a better time going to be to sell? I don't know. Maybe in the spring, maybe not. But based on what we've seen, it's not shooting fish in a barrel. So people are seeing what's going on out there. And if they have the option, they're waiting to sell. They're not listing their home when they would have already. The other thing too, this is a big one, expired listings. So these in the last report were up about 20% year over year, 135% week over week. So just a big jump in expired listings. Now, we got the 4th of July weekend in here, so some people were pulling their properties off. If they were going to do it before the 4th was the time to do it. I had one listing that came off the market for a few reasons, but the same thing. So sellers are staying on the market, but then they're not getting the price they thought they'd get. So now they're having second thoughts and saying, maybe we just pull it off the market. Maybe we don't have to sell right now. Maybe rather than do that big price reduction, which their agent is advising them, if they're going to do a reduction, if they want to sell, they should do a significant price reduction. We'd rather just stay. We're not quite ready to move. We're not seeing what we want out there on the market to buy, or we're looking at our monthly payment projections when we do buy, and it is not good. So let's take it off the market. So that, I think, is one of the hidden things that's happening here. That was a terrible job circling it. But what's happening here is that it's just a lot of the listings are expiring, and that gap of new or active listings rather is shrinking a little bit. So I'm going to keep a close eye on that as we move further into 2025. And I'm going to keep a close eye on this blue line, and we'll see what happens. I do still think when it's all said and done, prices come down because the people who need to sell are going to need to make price reductions at a level that's going to bring the average median home price down in 2025. But a lot of people are just tapping out. Rather than doing that price reduction, they are pulling it off the market. And so, by the way, and this is what I was mentioning earlier, when I clicked on this article here about what was going on, at least in terms of Realtor.com's eyes, it said, okay, so Denver housing market hit with an explosion of listings. True. And then the little preview for it on Google said projections are that prices fall by 9%. Interesting. And that's why I clicked on the article, because I said, okay, I see prices coming down, but 4%, 5%, 9% seems high to me. And I'm just throwing numbers out there. I obviously don't have a crystal ball. I'm probably going to be wrong in one way or another when this is all said and done. But 9% seemed high. That seemed, and maybe it is. But so I looked for that information. I said, where is that? And here it is. Nick Gurley, the CEO of real estate analytics firm Reventure App, tells Realtor.com he believes that the Denver market is now headed for a correction. I've never heard him say that word, but usually it's crash and massive crash. Forecast median home values in the area will fall 9% over the next 12 months. Interesting, because That takes into account the next spring market, but whatever, it doesn't matter. 9% seems high to me. I do think it's interesting that, and kind of funny that Realtor.com is quoting this guy, CEO, sure, he created a company that's a YouTube channel and a little algorithmic app, but he's being quoted as the 9% drop, which for him is tempered. Usually you see, I don't know, 40, 70, 100% drops. I'm kind of joking here, but again, if you've watched the space, if you've watched my channel, I do mention it sometimes. This is a guy who has been calling for a large scale U.S. real estate market crash since at least some point in 2021, and saying don't buy because prices are going to crash. Which, if you listen to him in early mid 2021 and we're going to buy and then didn't, you made a really, really poor decision to not lock in that low interest rate. Oh, and by the way, get a lower home price than what we're seeing now. And so that's why I feel okay kind of bringing this up, because a lot of this is fear mongering and not based on sound data, and I find it hilarious that he was quoted here. So the 9% number doesn't carry a whole lot of weight with me. I don't know what the number is going to be. Neither does anybody else. And it may end up that the delta in listings just year over year keeps shrinking, and there's not as much on the market, and so that compresses the market a little bit, and we keep, prices remain flat kind of again. That's totally possible. We will see what happens. So as always, hopefully this was helpful. If there is something you want addressed on these market update videos, please do weigh in, shoot me an email, or just leave a comment, because I'd like to know what people like to know. I'm happy to sort of dig into anything that might be helpful for folks. And if there's anything the team and I can do for you, would love to just have a conversation. So please do reach out. There should be ways to do that all over the place. Otherwise, love you. Thanks for watching. Talk soon.